What's going on this Monday night? This is House of Orange. This is the Tennessee baseball preview. Been waiting on this one for a bit. We both, I guess we took the positions, broke them down a couple weeks ago. We recorded 6 different parts to it and put it out there. We're going to kind of sum it all up tonight as we get into this one. So Tennessee baseball finished up the pizza series this past weekend. They start opening day Friday night. I mean, what better way to spend your Valentine's than to spend it with the Tennessee Vols baseball program? How are we feeling going in less than 5 days out at this point?
I would say pretty good. I mean, you don't really expect Tennessee to necessarily come out and be this super team again, to start at least. But they filled all the holes that they needed to fill, it seems like. As far as we know, things are in a good position. I'd say the worst thing about the baseball program right now is just the fact that the stadium's under construction.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only thing that you really have to worry about. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I know the pictures are kind of saddening to see that it's not as far along as we had initially hoped. I know there was the utilities issues that set things back big time, and that's why it's seems so far behind as of right now. So hopefully things will get better. Probably by June, things look a lot different if they continue to work on the stadium throughout the season, which I hope they do. Overall, stadium will look beautiful eventually. I'm a little worried currently about the student section images that I saw. They better put a pole on the end, otherwise it looks like some people, including myself, may be falling off towards the first base sideline. So hopefully they can get that fixed up this week. But overall, the team looks set. I mean, a lot of new names, so it'll be interesting to see who plays a factor. I know with non-conference games, it'll be different. Everybody gets a chance early in the season because you need to find out who your guys are. Some guys are gamers, some guys aren't. So we'll essentially get to learn that in the coming weeks. But overall, extremely excited to start the season. Very happy that we are finally here.
Yeah, for sure. Papa J, what's up? Papa J says, go Big Orange. Herb says, got my tickets for Friday, hoping for championship pregame. Downfall of being an elementary school teacher on Valentine's Day. Got to have Valentine's party. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to Knoxville by 4:30. If it was a later game, I could make it Friday, but I don't know that I will, but I'll definitely be there at some point this weekend along the way. Friday's up in the air on it, but let's see here as well. Sam Hargrove says Juggernaut. Yeah, I expect this is going to be a pretty stout team, and a lot of it's going to take a bit to take shape, I believe. It's not, it's like any point. I think the lineup, the pitching staff, both will take some time to come together on it. But let's look at the pizza series from the weekend. The old pizza series come in. Based on that, they played 3 games this weekend. Pizza series is kind of your final. It's your conclusion of the season. It leads up to the season opener. This will be the last set of scrimmages this week. Now, of course, you'll still have guys throwing bullpens, BP, all those things that they'll work on. But as far as the intra-squad scrimmages, that, to my understanding, does conclude them for the season. Man, to me on it, these I'm telling you, these freshmen, they're ruthless. These freshmen are ruthless. They're not afraid. They're not afraid, and they were balling all weekend. And one of the things I absolutely loved, I'm pretty sure it was Ben McKee 24/7 said this, but on Saturday, Levi Clark hit the walk-off off of Andrew Banky and to win it. And they also, here's what I love. They said Chris Newstrom was livid on the field, another freshman that's not getting enough hype, by the way. But I loved it. I loved it because, I hate to lose. I hate to lose. That's what I want, guys on my team that hate to lose. And in fact, that they're getting it's just intra-squad. But I've seen this before. I can't remember who it was. Said it was a former college player. Said most intense college games, College World Series 1, intra-squad 2, and so they those dudes get fired up for it, man. They're not just out there playing buddy balls. They're out there for blood. And these freshmen, man, I'm just telling you right now, these veteran dudes that are returning, if they don't get the job done, they're going to be watching. And there's a bunch of them getting into it. Based on what you've seen so far, who stood out to you this weekend in the pizza series?
I think Alberto Ozuna. I mean, he's got a lot of reps at first base. He apparently made a few good plays over there, fielding wise, and that's kind of a thing that you knew with the bat with him it was going to be good, but you didn't necessarily know what you were getting from the fielding standpoint because he did, I'm pretty sure, DH. I think at North Carolina a little bit as well, not necessarily just your full everyday first baseman. So it's good to see that the glove is there and that's capable of playing at the SEC level. And then the bat's there, of course, as well. I would say that that's something that's huge. You need that from the first base position. I mean, you're replacing Blake Burke, who had the season that he did last year. So it's definitely important that whoever your first baseman is does have some kind of production at the plate and can give you some big bats. And another guy I would list is Stone Lawless, the refrigerator himself, as I continue to call him that. I just think that the guy's really good and he's slimmed down a little bit. I know in the video of him hitting the home run in the Pizza Series that he looked a little bit skinnier than he did last year. He's still extremely huge, but he's good enough. I think I saw an Instagram reel last night of him working somewhere in the offseason catching the ball. So he's definitely gotten better. He can be your starting catcher this season, especially to start things with Cannon Peebles going through some, I think, an arm issue. But overall, Stone Lawless, he's got a great name. He's got a great bat. If he can do it on the field, fielding wise, why not? He can be everything you want him to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And let's see. If we're going further, make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe. Just pulled up. Evidently, somebody's not real happy we're doing baseball. So must be an Auburn fan coming back in. My good buddies from Auburn coming in tonight. Make sure you hit that. Super chats are appreciated as well. Those do go to help the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description for memberships and the Patreon, as that also goes to help the channel. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, Osuna, once he gets cleared, and we don't know if he'll be cleared by this weekend or not, as it still has to go through the NCAA, and we know the NCAA does not get in a hurry to get anything done. So, once he's in, it's going to be curious to see how Osuna does. I think it bears watching with Cannon Peebles if he's still limited this weekend. I mean, to me, that's Stone Lawless, and I know they said Dalton Bargo caught some over the weekend, but I still think it's Stone Lawless goes second. Guys, I mean, a lot of dudes stood out this weekend, and got some pretty good question. Bubble says let's go back to back. Let's see. Oh, I just noticed what you. Yeah. Huh. I don't know why it's doing that now.
It's working on my end now, though. So
okay,
it says we can only share it to 3 platforms. So
yeah, they've changed that. It's nice they keep increasing the prices and take away the.
Yeah, I made an executive decision to take out Instagram.
Yeah, we had one whopping viewer over there, so I think we'll live.
Yeah,
with that one. So, but got some pretty good questions there. I'm gonna stick to baseball on it. Are we gonna be stronger on the batting or pitching side? They're not going to be hurting at the plate. I mean, I'm still, I've talked to people. I think they're going to be really good offensively, top to bottom. I'm not saying necessarily higher quality, but top to bottom, 1 through 9. I think it definitely has the potential to be a deeper lineup because last year, really the last couple of years, when you've got to the bottom, you started running into some issues at the bottom. But pitching wise, I think they're going to be loaded. I think they're going to be loaded. Now, we're going to talk it right now based on what it seems to me the rotation is. I've got some questions, and I might get a little animated on this tonight.
That's all right.
And as you guys know, when I did it last year, I love our coaching staff. I'm not afraid to call a spade though on something, and we'll see on that when I get to it. Sam says seem like the pitching has potential to be strong. It definitely does. I think this pitching, especially when you get AJ Russell back, as
Yeah.
it seems like he's ahead of schedule right now. When you get him back, if he comes back healthy and ready to go, you're going to add a lot right there. I mean, what the rotation is going to look like this weekend versus what it can look like later in the season is going to be a major difference, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Rhonda? Good to see you in here tonight. Yep, Super Bowl ends last night. Not so Super Bowl last night. Definitely not if you're a Chiefs fan, but we're going to touch on this one here in a minute, Sam, or here in a few minutes as well. But looking at going back to Pizza Series, I looked at some of the games. To me, guys who stood out were, I mean, pitching wise, of course, Doyle went 4 1/3. He gave up nothing on the night. Hitting wise, that more to me, I mean, if this is going to be the lineup, I love it. If they're going Curley lead off Keelan too. And I don't know where you go. I can't say I'm crazy about Inslee third. I
don't
love Hunter Inslee. I like him in the 5 hole. That's where he flourished
That's where
last year. Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they moved him around a lot last year. Once he got in that hole, I felt like he flourished with it. Because to me, when you get Osuna cleared, I think and I know Tony Vitello likes to go left, right, in every what order they go. You go Curley Keelan, you go Osuna Fisher. That to me is your top 4.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. Now, what about a guy like Jay Abernathy? I mean, I would not have a problem if you inserted him at leadoff and then moved the rest down, because if he's able to hit, we've talked about it, his speed is game changer.
He just got to make contact. That's all he has to do, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially if I don't know that teams would like shift him, but if they do, you put a bunt down the third baseline.
I mean, he's home to first in 3.5 seconds. And my other note on him is he can go from home to third in 11 seconds. So he is the definition of speed. He got on campus and was automatically the fastest player on the team. So the speed is definitely there. Makes contact. He's probably standing on first base.
Yeah, if he hits a gapper or hits one down the line, it's a triple.
Yeah, and it's hard to hit triples at Lindsey Nelson. Yeah. But he's definitely capable of doing it.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what you said, he hits something, gets on first base. You can just holler out, he's stealing, and teams aren't going to do anything about it.
And we haven't had that. We haven't necessarily had a guy under Tony Vitello in the past few years that's just stealing base after base. That's just not necessarily been the game plan of Vitello teams recently, which I don't necessarily like, because teams ate us alive running the bases on us, and we lost many games because they were stealing extra bases on us. We never did seem to take advantage of that. And we had some guys that did have some speed. I feel like Christian Moore could have ran a lot more last year, but of course you didn't want to risk injury, so I was okay with it. But it's seemingly often that we don't necessarily let guys steal as many bases as they probably should, which I would like to see a lot of stolen bases in the first few weeks of non-conference play.
Yeah, the closest guy we've had to that was 2022 with Seth Stevenson. He stole 25.
Yeah.
And he's the guy I've heard kind of Abernathy referred to as far as comparison speed-wise. That's probably the closest. But it seems like Abernathy may be a little faster than Seth Stevenson.
I'm pretty sure he is.
And but Stevenson, I mean, he could get up and go too. But Abernathy, it'll be interesting to see what they're doing, because it seemed like they kind of moved him around in the order this weekend. The consistent part was Curley, Keelan, Inslee, top 3, and I would probably have to think that's where they go with it. And we'll see. Maybe Inslee stays there, maybe he doesn't. You got a ton of options, though. I mean, a lot of freshmen showed out this weekend. Manny Moran, Chris Newstrom, Levi Clark, just to name a few. I don't see a lot from Abernathy. I mean, Friday he went 0 for 3 on it. Now, the way they had them divided up this weekend, you had kind of your top, probably more your projected starters versus your main pitching options was how they went this weekend. So, I mean, some of your freshman guys they weren't necessarily facing Doyle, Snead, and those guys. But, I mean, still with this staff, I mean, it's loaded with talent along the way. But I think with this lineup, as we get into, there's going to be a lot of guys, to kind of piggyback off Herb's comment here, going to be hard to keep a lot of guys out of the lineup. The only problem is you got 9 slots. And so
the bench is
freshman pulled out. I mean, the pitching, there was some good. There was some interesting over the weekend from the pitching as well. I mean, I'm trying to go back through a couple of games here. Game 2 of it, guys, according to the stats, I mean, Curley and Keelan did it all weekend. Clark had the 3-run walk-off bomb. Marin had a bomb. This was against I'm not sure who Marin hit it off of, but he would have been facing probably one of your top pitchers. Trying to look here with the freshman. I mean, Newstrom, every game did something every game. Like you said, you mentioned Lawless and Osuna. That's 2 guys going to be hard to get out of lineup. What I like in the last couple of days, too, Jackson Walker had a pretty good weekend, too. He's a guy that doesn't get enough talk, and I'm really curious to see what they do with him because he's a top 100 guy coming out of high school as an outfielder. And I know you talked about him in your outfielders preview, but there's just so many guys, man, that it's just interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the active roster looks like when they finally do release it.
Yeah. I know the Jackson Walker, he had the 3-run home run yesterday off of starting pitcher Brandon Arvidsson, who was the JUCO transfer.
Yep. So he had that. That was in the first inning. Arvidsson got lit up yesterday because Chris Newstrom led off with a bomb.
Yeah.
And then Walker hit a bomb as well. I mean, like I feel like you're pitching, looking at Saturday for the gray team. It was Tate Strickland. Tate Strickland had an interesting stat line. 2 innings, no hits. 2 runs, 2 earned, 4 strikeouts, 7 walks. So I've heard good things about Tate Strickland, and he could bring the gas. It's just, is this got to get that control down, though. And, we saw that with numerous guys last year that Marcus Phillips, who we're going to talk more about, was really the prime guy come to mind that felt like there was so much potential, but the control was an issue last year. But Phillips, speaking of him, he threw that game too, and he went let me pull it back up here where I'm at. 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 5 strikeouts, no walks. That, to me, I'll take the runs given up, especially when you're facing hitters like Tennessee has. But the fact he went 4 innings and had no walks, that's a positive. The last couple outings he's had, he's minimized his walks. If he gets that down pat, this dude is filthy. He's going to be filthy. But I'm really interested on how they're going to use him as we get to rotation because they've thrown me a curveball or two this weekend that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, as
we go to the opener this week, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on there because they went Phillips, Snead followed him. Andrew Banky on Saturday. Looks like his defense did him no favors. He went 1/3, 2 hits, 6 runs, but only one of them was earned and 2 walks. I don't know where they're at as far as that goes, but the defense, that's where there's going to be questions at. I think there's some. I don't know. We'll talk more about it, but Pizza Series, and then game 3 went to what it came down. Ryan Combs come in to close it and blew it, and then they went to something like
it's 1-on-1 sudden death kind of thing is what they did.
Yep, and it looks like somebody.
Braden Krenzel was the pitcher for the white team.
Yep, freshman.
I hadn't
He's
heard
going to
his
do
name.
some good things in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Too. Looks like it was down to him and Combs at the end on it. And somebody got a hit off of Krenzel.
Blake Grimmer.
Blake
He roped
Grimmer.
a double down the right field line.
Blake Grimmer. Okay. And then Ryan Combs struck out Dalton Bargo to end it.
Yep. And then he gave Bargo the look.
Yeah, I seen that where I don't remember if it was Shumpert or Mike Wilson that said that.
It was, I saw Mike Wilson put that out.
Said, Combs stared him down after it's over. So they sound like they were all pretty heated this weekend.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty awesome myself. That'd been fun.
It was funny. I saw, I just looked a second ago. Actually, I think I still have it up right here. No, it's the wrong one. I just read something and it had the game 3 or yesterday in the pizza series, and it still had they still listed as Aaron Combs was pitching.
Really?
Not Ryan Combs.
Oh my gosh. So I mean, I've seen some of them predicting that Ryan Combs is going to be your starter, or not your starter, your closer,
which is out of nowhere.
Hey, there's a lot of out of nowheres that's come up here recently, because my prediction was Doyle, Snead, Coons starting rotation, and probably closer Marcus Phillips, Tanner Franklin. If this weekend is any indication on how they're going, it very well may be Liam Doyle, Marcus Phillips, and possibly Dylan Loy as your starting rotation. I'm still curious to see if they give Snead a shot or not.
I think they will.
But I don't. The talk of really the fall and now has been Tegan Coons. Mm-hmm. And Tegan Coons come in 1 inning yesterday. 1 inning, they're throwing others. And he, according to Mike Wilson's exact words was, he was electric. He mowed down Dalton Bargo, Levi Clark, and Manny Moran. When it's all said and done, you're going to have a hard time keeping him out of the rotation. But I'm really kind of not. This is where I said I might get a little animated. I don't understand what we're doing here. And I know it's Hofstra. You could throw about anybody, and you should be able to beat Hofstra this weekend. But maybe they're looking back to 2022. This is my only reasoning on this. Seemed like Burns and Beam down the stretch kind of tired out on it. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I go back to those stats that year. They threw, let's see. I mean, Beam threw 76 innings, Burns threw 80 on it. That's quite a few innings, obviously. But, are they trying to limit the innings here, or what's going on? Because that's what it looks like. I think Doyle Phillips are locked in. The third one's going to be interesting to see how they do it. So, I mean, what's your line of thinking on that?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think it'll be different. I would guarantee none of it's the same except Liam Doyle on Friday nights come SEC play. I think if they are going and they're not starting Coons and Snead, at least to start things to save the arms, I think that's smart personally, because you're going to win these games, and especially against Hofstra this week. But Snead last year, in my opinion, he got burnt out by the end of the season. He didn't have the arm that we saw early in the season. He was hitting 101, 100 consistently in non-conference play. As his pitch count grew throughout the season, his arm kind of got weaker, and we got to Omaha, and he was a guy that was 87, 88, 89 consistently, and he was closer to 85, 86, 87. It's just because the arm tax that happens throughout a long season like that. And if you're bumping him up into a starter role this season, I mean, that's a huge jump considering he got tired last year just in a reliever position. If he's starting this year, he's got to have the arm to make it all year. So just for his case, I think that's a good idea. Keep his innings low for now. And if you may need to give him a chance to start, and if, of course, he can be what you project him to be as a starter, give him, of course, the chance to do so. Tegan Coons, I mean, the stuff's there. He may actually be the nastiest pitcher on the roster, may be the best pitcher on the roster. The only thing that hurts him is that he's a true freshman, and he still has a lot to prove. So I don't like that he's not starting this week, as far as we know. but I think you got to give him a chance in a midweek, and whoever that midweek team is that has to face him, I'm extremely sorry because you are screwed. He will mow you down, and I think you give him 1 or 2 weeks in a midweek, he does exactly what you expect him to do. Just give him a chance to start on a weekend, and I think Coons could run to the table and be. I think he should be your Saturday starter for the rest of the season if he does what you project him to do.
I'll be shocked if he throws midweek. There's no way. I don't think there's any way he throws midweek because normally they go midweek. They'll go guys 1 or 2 innings. I mean, Seacrest was a little different, but I think if anything, he just comes out of the bullpen, maybe kind of like Snead did last year, because Snead still last year threw the third most innings coming out of the bullpen. He threw 75 in a third inning. You had the fourth most because Beam went 102 in a third, Causey 91 in a third, and then Seacrest went 78 and Snead 75 in a third. Because you remember Seacrest for a while was rarely getting out of the third or fourth inning.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, end of the year, I mean, he was probably your most clutch guy. Seacrest was, and then Snead was throwing 4 and 5 innings, so that's probably where his innings went up. But we'll see how it plays out. I mean, the pitching staff has changed the last 2 years, really the last 3 years as they've gone along. I know 2021 they were pretty consistent with Chad Dallas, Heflin, and Blade Tidwell. They had a model consistency that year. 2022, you had Burns, Dolander, Beam, and then once Tidwell got healthy, they kind of adjusted that, and to me, cost themselves the College World Series that year because Tidwell was probably the most talented, but he was coming off the injury, and I still say they underutilized Ben Joyce at that point. I mean, we brought Ben Joyce in against Notre Dame down by 10 runs and wasted him for the weekend.
Yep.
I mean, it was, I don't know, it was kind of senseless to me. Is what it is, though. But, the 2023 staff changed because they had to go. They went Andrew Lindsay, Dolander, Beam, moved Burns. Chase Burns to the bullpen. Then last year, of course, they had to adjust because of the A.J. Russell injury. Yep. But I think right now you're looking at Doyle, Phillips, and then we'll see on Sunday. I think it could be a number of guys, but based on what I've read, based on people I talked to, it sounds like Phillips is going to have a real good shot to start. And if he's able to do it, keep his control good for him. Yep. We'll see what he does when the lights comes on, because that's my big question with it. But man, I'll tell you, a guy like that, I'd love to see him at the end of games. I'd love to see him at the end of games, a dude who's just coming in throwing heat, and especially when he gets that movement going on it as well. Who's some other, I'm going to hit some comments here in a minute, but who's some other pitchers that stood out to you from the weekend based on what you've seen?
I can't necessarily, I mean, essentially everybody pitched, so I don't know of anybody that necessarily mowed everybody down that hasn't been mentioned. Of course, there's some guys that'll pop out of nowhere. That's kind of no names. So I think the Braden Krenzel kid, I'd never heard of him before until I read the Pizza Series stuff. So that was one that kind of stood out. Ryan Combs being the closer, potentially, that of course stood out to me. And then some of the JUCO guys that we kind of expected to play a lot bigger role, not necessarily playing as big of a role as they essentially seemed like they have been. And they're not necessarily getting a chance that you expected them to get whenever we come to the start of the season here. So I think it's a lot of eye-opening stuff and a lot of different things than what we expected when it comes to the pitching staff.
Yeah, those JUCOs I'm interested to see what their roles are going to be. I see more closer type, with Ryan Combs. I think Sharman profiles as an ideal midweek guy. He's got through a lot of innings in JUCO, and he can eat up some innings there. I mean, but I think with your midweek, you want to throw, depending on how many freshmen they keep on the active roster. That's where I'd like to see your Tate Stricklands, Aiden Hayes. There's Nick Abraham, a guy, he threw 5 innings yesterday, I believe it was. Yeah. Braden Krenzel's a guy that could possibly get you some weekend work. He didn't throw much in the fall. He was throwing bullpens, bless you, but he didn't. He didn't throw much beyond that. But he's been pretty good here, and I think he's a guy that'll give you some valuable innings. I mean, to me, what's Tanner Wiggins' role going to be? JUCO guy. What's Tanner Franklin's role going to be? Transfer out of Kennesaw. I don't know that we're going to know a whole lot on this pitching staff for a bit. I think they're going to toy with it this weekend. It's again, it's not really shaping up how I anticipated, but the cream always rises to the top. I just hope they don't go in with that opener philosophy crap this year.
I don't want that again.
No, it was borderline insanity and come close to costing them last year.
It did. And
then it came really close to costing them against Florida State. And it came really close. I mean, we got in the hole 1-0, down 1-0 against A&M because of it. It's when you've got this much talent, we don't need an opener philosophy.
No.
With it. We just don't. Especially when you've got starters that are on that staff. And you better get them the innings when you can. And maybe you save them for conference play. I don't know. I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, though. Hit a couple things. Is everyone healthy? Yes. Yeah, I'm not aware of anybody battling it. Well, you've got Andrew Fisher and Cannon Peebles that's been battling some injuries, but I think they'll be good.
You may see Peebles DHing just to kind of start things. He may not be behind the plate.
Yeah, if he DHs, that's going to put Stone Lawless behind the plate, I really think. And then that's going to be interesting to see what they do with the outfield, because I think the outfield's going to be Abernathy, Inslee, and Reese Chapman. But, it's a lot of people's predicting Reese Chapman to have a big year. I can tell you this, if he doesn't get it done, there's going to be plenty of guys just waiting to take his place. I can tell you that right now. I wouldn't say we fell into a baseball national championship. I mean, they totally earned. I mean, that was, to me, probably arguably the greatest team in college baseball history last year, according to the numbers. I mean, there's been some good ones over the years, obviously. Why is this thing not letting me scroll? StreamYard's kind of pissing me off a little bit tonight. Let's see. Somebody asks, is game televised Friday? I would assume it will be on ESPN Plus.
It's on SEC Network Plus, so you don't necessarily have to have your ESPN Plus subscription as long as you have a TV provider.
SEC Plus?
Yeah. Personally, that's what I've been trying to do, is I've been trying to get it pulled up. My TV provider logged into the ESPN app, and it won't let me do it. And it hasn't let me do it for the past few weeks. So I've got to get that straightened up by Friday.
Okay. Well, so I might have started ESPN Plus for nothing. But I like to watch a lot of different college baseball games.
Yeah,
so
you can still watch it on ESPN Plus, but it's also on SEC Network Plus.
I like with it watching teams like, I always like watching East Carolina, Cal State Fullerton, Coastal, Carolina. I'll probably try to catch a couple other like Charleston and Citadel, because there's some guys that I coached at Dutch Fork playing for them. Maybe try to catch, see if some of those guys are in the lineup. Stuff, but the ESPN Plus, I always kind of advertise it just for college baseball, just because you get everything. I mean, I don't know. I would say that weekend that Tennessee plays in Houston, you won't get it on there. Normally, it's on like what was
on Flow Sports last year.
Flow Sports
paid $20 for a subscription.
Yeah, Flow Sports last year paid $20 to watch 3 days on it. Or I know the last time they played in Houston, you could actually get it on the Astros YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's the case again. That way it'll be free and you don't have to go get a Flow Sports subscription. But so SEC Network Plus, that's where it's at this weekend. If you're a college baseball guy like me, the ESPN Plus app, man, you get to watch a lot of good baseball and stuff as well. So that is good to know moving forward. Big Orange says he's got his ESPN Plus ready to go. Absolutely, man. It's a good deal for baseball. It really is. And I've seen question Brent Hubbs, VolQuest. You might have seen it. Posed the question to people, what got you, what made Tennessee baseball grow in popularity? And I saw somebody say it, and I agree. It's the fact that we're able to watch the games now.
Yeah.
You were, before ESPN Plus, you might occasionally get a game?
Yeah. There was you'd get the SEC game of the week, the weekend series. Yeah. That's all you would see on SEC Network. That was it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. And then, it was after that, it was 2021, I guess, is when it started. It's like, hey, what is this, man? It's like, all right, here's Tennessee baseball. And then it's like, here's the next game. Wait a minute, here's Tennessee baseball. Here's midweek. Here it is. It's like, all right, we got something going here now.
I think they saw the success from the NCAA tournament whenever they started putting because people were going to pay to watch their team play in the NCAA tournament whenever it comes to college baseball. They saw success with that. So they said, why not televise the midweek games and the other series that aren't even close to being able to be seen on TV? People are going to pay the $10 a month to watch them. So, and it's worked so far. It's only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And hopefully the game will keep growing too. I mean, one of the cool things this year, you've probably seen that, Tennessee's going to be in the show. MLB 25, the show.
Yep.
Which I've not played any of the MLB the shows. I don't know if I ever have. Honestly, used to be MVP baseball for me back in the day when EA was still doing it. But maybe this rise in popularity will lead to them getting their own college baseball game again. There used to be one.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called now, but hopefully it can get back to that. But hopefully this game will continue to get, it seems like the popularity is growing, and I think a lot of it's due to now having more access to being able to watch it than before. And that's kind of going to be a big thing with it. Let's see. I think we're where we need to be on it. Going into the lineup, are we pretty much what you're starting? I guess not counting DH. I think we'll probably be in consensus on this. What's your starting, I guess, infield, outfield catcher going into the season?
Yeah, I'll just go fully healthy just to make things simpler. From catcher spot, I'd put Peebles, and then I would have Lawless backing him up. And I'd kind of have a rotation of him and Lawless rotating in and out just because, actually, they'll do that anyway just because Cam Peebles isn't going to start every day because God bless his knees. You don't want to kill the man's career because of that. First base, I think if Ozuna gets cleared, you see him there. I'd like to see Bargo at third. I mean, not at first base. I'd like to see Bargo at first base if you can work him in, especially if Ozuna doesn't get cleared as soon as we want him to get cleared. Second base, of course, is Keelan, and then shortstop, of course, is Curley. Third base appears to be Fisher. Behind Fisher, because there's going to be a lot of movement at third base. I saw Antigua could be your backup third baseman, and you also have Marine that's worked a lot at third base as well. So those are two guys that we'll see a lot. I think the whole infield will shift around a lot more than necessarily the outfield will at times. Because if the outfield gets going, I think they'll stick with those guys. But left field's Abernathy. I want Colby Backus to start in left field, but I love Abernathy just as much as I love Colby Backus. So I'd give Abernathy the left field spot. Center field's Hunter Inslee. He's earned that spot. That's not going anywhere. Right field's got to be, of course, Reese Chapman. But also, if Reese doesn't do what you want him to do, there's so many different options that you could put out there. So there's 30 guys that you could put at any spot, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in consensus. It looks like Peebles. I think midweek it's probably Stone Lawless catching, but I mean, Dalton Bargo can catch. Levi Clark's listed as a catcher. I don't know that he catches much down there. Chris Newstrom can catch, and I've heard Chris Newstrom's a really good catcher. He can play about anywhere, actually. And first base is going to be interesting. I think Bargo probably has the leg up on it, but he's another one of those, man. If he doesn't get the job done, he's going to be out, and there's going to be pressure on him to perform. I mean, he and Chapman were both given opportunities last year, and they had their moments, but they were inconsistent. If they are this year, there's going to be somebody that's going to put them out.
Yeah.
This year, and looks like second short's going to flip flop between Keelan and Curley. Looks like they've been flip flopping them a lot, and said you may see that for a bit as well. So I'm really kind of curious to see
because
how that's your middle infield. It's just according to how they go with them. I'm interested to see Fisher at third because he is not known for his glove.
No,
coming in.
it's kind of like
be honest about
Amick.
it.
I think it's kind of like the Amick situation of the gloves not what you think it is. And Amick, in my opinion, he shouldn't have been playing third after the errors that he made consistently last season. I would have moved him to a different spot. That was just me personally, but they stuck with him over there. It didn't hurt us as bad as I thought it would, but I don't see them doing the same thing with Fisher. I think Fisher's will be on a shorter leash.
Yeah, and Fisher, I think, was worse defensively than Billy Amick was.
Yeah,
so
they moved him right.
Fisher got moved last year to first? He ended up DHing for
it was right field
and then DH some. So with all the gloves they have there, with Marin and Ariel, if Ariel Antigua hit, there's no doubt about this. Ariel Antigua is the best infielder on this team, and it's not even close.
He may be the best infielder in college baseball.
He could be. He could be. The dude can he's insane with the glove in the field. And, I said it last year in that game, I almost said game 7, game 3 of the World Series. I think it was the 8th inning. A&M hit one in the hole. Dean Curley does not make that play.
Yeah.
That goes in the outfield. And with Dylan Dryling's arm, that's possible. That was a run that would have hurt. Antigua made the same, come really close to throwing the dude out at first.
Yeah,
which I was shocked how close it became. But the guy at second did not move and did not end up scoring. That was a huge underrated play in that game 3 that I've told you, and I've mentioned it on here. I watched Antigua play this summer in the Appalachian League. There's not a play he can't make in the field. I mean, if his bat ever gets going, to me, there's absolutely no way you keep him out of lineup because his glove, he reminds me, I guess, a comparison would be Andrelton Simmons that used to play for the Braves, and then his glove is every bit as good as that. Now he hits about the same as Simmons right now. Simmons was not that much of a hitter, I never thought. But, if a guy like Fisher could be one of those where he's, especially in bigger games, he's a defensive replacement late in the game. Because if you got Antigua, you could would they put Antigua at short? Maybe move Curley or Keelan to third.
Yeah.
Manny Marin is another one they talk about, is really well-rounded. Chris Newstrom, I've mentioned Chris Newstrom can play anywhere on the field about it. I mean, heck, they might bring him in. He might be one of those guys all of a sudden you trot in out of the bullpen one game this year. And I don't know if he pitches or not, but he can very versatile. And he's a guy that I could see going to the outfield too if Chapman doesn't get it done. But it was interesting yesterday, Levi Clark was playing some right field. So, I mean, that's another bat that it's going to be hard to keep out. But I'm in agreement with you, Abernathy, Inslee, Chapman. But I kind of wonder, too, with Inslee, if he starts out this year like he did last year, or do they kind of look at some things?
Yeah, that's why I don't necessarily like him in the 3-hole. I think it's don't put the pressure on him that you put the same that you put on him last year. Because you put the pressure on him last year, and he didn't perform until it took him a long time to get out of that slump. And I don't want that same thing to happen this year. He should be able to get through it no matter what this year, but I don't like putting him in that same situation. Because if he's down, we're not in a situation like we were last year where you have a guy like Blake Burke and Christian Moore that have been a part of the program and can play baseball really stinking good. And you can lean on them like we did and be okay without Inslee giving the production that you wanted him to give. You don't have that this year, unfortunately. So if you put a lot of pressure on Inslee, there's a lot of guys that haven't proved it before that are going to have to prove it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because there's times last year they went with moved Tiers to center.
Yeah.
Put Inslee on the bench.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I mean, honestly, I think outside of Curley and Keelan, everybody else is better be performing.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes, I think Fisher is in line for a monster year in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
I would not be surprised to see him approach 30 home runs. I wouldn't be surprised to see Keelan approach 20 or so. And they talked about, some of them ranked him the top transfer in the SEC coming in. He's listed as potential first rounder coming in next year. I think I seen today it was something listed top draft eligible shortstops, and he was listed like top 5 on that. So obviously the guy is pretty versatile there as well. But that's I agree. I think it's Peebles, Bargo, Keelan, Curley, ever how they go there, Fisher, Chapman, Inslee, Abernathy. Then though, gosh, it gets so interesting because I'm telling you, if Cannon Peebles struggles, he's done.
Yeah,
he's done, because I think your boy, the Fridge, Stone Lawless, gets in. It's over with, because they're pretty high on him. He's done some good things. I think Bargo struggles at first. Osuna, Levi Clark, or somebody's in, and it's over. Or Chapman struggles in right. Levi Clark, Chris Newstrom, or somebody's in. It's done for him.
Yeah.
DH, I mean, everybody will DH. You'll probably see a combination of, if Peebles DHs this weekend, it wouldn't surprise me to save him, but you'll probably see Lawless DH. And Bargo can play pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
You might see him DH some. You might see your boy Backus get some opportunity here. I mean, for me with Backus, he's got to do it when it matters.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to light. He's going to light up some non-conference.
He will.
But I mean, I was looking out of curiosity today. Did you see what his batting average was in SEC play last year?
It's got to be low. There's probably
0-0-0.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
And that was it. Just that now they had some quick triggers with him too.
They did.
But yeah, the one that bothered me the most with him, and it's like I don't know, was when Inslee went out in Omaha. Was it against North Carolina? Backus got his opportunity and went up there and didn't even take the bat off his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, you've got an opportunity. Swing the bat.
Yeah.
And I don't think he got much run after that. I mean, I think the potential's there because he's got a good glove. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's got power. He does a lot of good things. It just seems like I wonder with him if it's not more mental than anything.
It probably is. Especially just considering he was treated the way he was last year. He kind of got, at times, one plate appearance in an SEC game, didn't do anything, and he got pulled. So I thought he was hitting the portal. Like, I thought if I got treated like that and they put in a guy that performs worse than I do, and then they can actually give the guy that they replaced me with more chances after that, like they did with Reese Chapman, I would have hit the portal personally. I get that he went to Daniel Boone. He's from Johnson City. He's from Tennessee, loves Tennessee. If he wants to go to the next level, I would have hit the portal because of that. I'm very happy he stuck through it, and he's part of the team this year. I don't know if right now he's not regretting that decision, because it appears that there's a lot of guys that are getting mentioned a lot more than he is. So Backus is a guy that I, of course, want to give him the chance because I've liked him since he stepped on campus. Because if you play as well as he did at Walter State, everybody knows Walter State when it comes to community college baseball. They're a powerhouse program for a reason. So, and he did well there. So, of course, he can transfer that to the SEC level. We haven't seen it, but he also hasn't gotten as many opportunities as I would like. But he's got to prove it himself, and he's got to do it quick. Otherwise, one of the other 10 options is going to take his spot, and he'll be one of the guys that has a wasted career.
I mean, in all fairness, so I'll probably, I think, you mentioned guy worse. Chapman was better than Colby Backus.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it was in the SEC tournament. Backus started. Backus struck out. Then they pulled Backus, put in Chapman. Chapman went 0 for 3 and had 2 strikeouts.
I think I do remember that.
So, and that was kind of the thing that was pissed me off, was regarding that. Like, he did nothing to warrant you subbing out Backus.
Mhm.
And then they stuck with Chapman the game after that. So that's what pissed me off.
Yeah,
But
some of the DH stuff was a little odd last year, the way
yeah,
they went with it. It was, but I mean, you know, at that point too, I think you're just trying to get. I would have probably liked to see Backus get a little more opportunity since Chapman and Bargo did.
hmm
So I mean, I don't know the reasoning that they did. I mean, and Peebles got some opportunity too. It was then you had your moments with it, but it just seemed like whoever DH just didn't.
no, people should have never DH'd. He was your pinch hitter weapon out of your back pocket that's going to come up there, and you have to throw him 3 strikes. Otherwise, he's standing on first base with a walk.
Yeah,
Because
he
he
did it
walked
numerous
that.
times too.
It was like a 35% chance he was getting on first base because of a walk last year. So that's all he had to do was strike him out. If you didn't strike him out, he was standing on first. And he shouldn't have DH'd because it seemed whenever he did DH, he played awful. But you bring him in a pitch hitter situation in the College World Series, doesn't even look like he's in the moment. He's so calm, and he just watches every pitch that's this close off the plate just go right by him. And then next thing you know, it's a walk, and Tennessee scores a run and comes back and beats Florida State. So the kid, I don't know how the kid stood up there and did it, but he got walk after walk after walk.
Yeah, and it was it Kentucky? He hit a bomb late when he come in too.
It was.
Maybe the
I know he did it
Sunday
against
game,
Vanderbilt.
possibly.
It may be in the Kentucky game. I know he did it against Vanderbilt.
Okay,
He hit
maybe that's
it
the
was
one I'm
just a
thinking
solo
of.
shot, but
That could be the one I'm thinking of here. Yeah, Herb said People's big walk in the Florida State game
mhm.
too. I mean, yeah, it's some of the eyes in that Florida State game, Dan. I mean, we can sit and debate the Blake Burke one all day long. I honestly probably would not have had a problem with they would have called that a strike, but you know, the baseball gods smiled down on Tennessee on that day, and sometimes you get a break, and I know it's easy from our vantage point to sit and watch the camera right on from an umpire's perspective, though. You can't call that if you're not sure. And from that guy's angle down the third baseline, I can't see how he would be able to tell
Yeah.
on that. So, I mean, I can't, even if that would have been the opposite way, yeah, I'd have probably been unhappy. But at the same time, if you look at the perspective of where the umpire was standing, that's not an easy call.
Mhm.
It's not that close.
And Burke
It's
sold
not.
it well. He did
Yeah, he
sell it well.
did.
Because whenever I watched it live on TV, I was like, he didn't swing, wasn't even close. Then you see the replay, and it was like, that's right on the edge. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
get any closer than that. So,
Well, it depend on, those Florida State fans, those lines of theirs all squiggly. Oh, look at this line here.
yeah.
And it was going down. But I'm really curious where they're going to go. I mean, we talked a little pitching. What we'll dive back a little bit more into pitching. We're about 55 minutes. Again, make sure you hit that like, that share. If you haven't already subscribed, and super chats are appreciated. They're definitely appreciated on here. Feeling generous tonight. And going back live tomorrow night after the Kentucky game as well. That's the plan. Going to try to dive back in. Probably not every single game, but definitely going to try to get back into it a little bit more here. Tomorrow night's a good one to go with. But looking at your, based on how we've gone it, what would your ideal batting order be based on who we kind of said we think's in?
To me, just in my personal opinion, I combat what we've seen. I would put Abernathy leading off. Then I would have Keelan at batting second, Curley batting third, Fisher batting fourth, Inslee at the fifth spot, Bargo batting sixth, considering he's your first baseman. So I'd rule out Ozuna, or Ozuna could bat sixth. I think that's kind of interchangeable. And then after that, I have the seventh spot. Let's see. Left field. No, I got Abernathy. Okay, now I've done confused myself whenever I mention Ozuna. The left field, who do I have? Let's see. Now I'm already confused myself. Yeah, I got Abernathy. Center field, Ainsley, of course. Right field, Chapman. Okay, then I got Chapman in the seventh spot. Eighth spot, I got Peebles. and then ninth spot is whoever I forgot. DH.
DH, I
Yeah,
guess.
whoever the DH is. Or no, actually, I'd put Peebles in ninth spot, DH at the eighth spot.
I'm kind of going. I wouldn't mind to see Abernathy lead off at some point, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty big on my dudes getting the at bats. I like Curley leading off Keelan. I wouldn't even have a problem if they flip flop that either. I would probably go Curley Keelan. Where it's going to get interesting to me is, does Osuna play his way in to the line? Does a Levi Clark play his? Because there's so many guys going to be hard to keep out of that lineup. Ideally, I think I would have Fisher third. I would maybe even go Keelan, Curley, Fisher, Osuna, maybe Clark in there, Inslee. I go Chapman sixth. Seventh. Where are we at? Who I've left out Abernathy. I've almost started Abernathy ninth. Maybe I go Bargo, Peebles, but you could do a lot with Abernathy in that 9 hole if you went that. I mean, because that's almost like in a respect another leadoff down there. But I think there's a lot of ways. That first base and DH is going to be the key on it. Who are the first basemen? Who are the DHs on it? I do like the Curley Keelan to start off, but I wouldn't have a problem with them flip flopped either. Because part of me thinks, well, I don't know, man. Curley's done it in SEC play. Keelan hasn't. Mm-hmm. So, right now, I guess I would go based on how it's set up. I would go Curley, Keelan, Fisher. Based on, I mean, the DH remains to be seen. With it, that would put. Jeez, man, I don't know. I'm probably going. When it's all said and done, I think it'll be. I keep flip flopping just because this is
so many
kind of hard to.
It is
with some unknowns.
Yeah,
Curley, Keelan, Osuna, Fisher, Inslee. I'll put Chapman sixth. Levi Clark, I think, he's going to be hard to keep out. I go him seventh. I would go, that leaves me with Peebles eighth, Abernathy ninth. That would be my ideal lineup. Now, Bargo's going to have something to say about it. He's going to be in. So I don't think Bargo will be every day. He could be. I mean, he's versatile to be, but I think Osuna is going to be really hard to keep out of the lineup. And especially like you mentioned earlier, I mean, he was apparently making plays all weekend at first. And, the thing about him, too, you mentioned Walter State earlier. The numbers he put up at Walter State in 21 were insane. He won like Junior College Player of the Year. Yeah. He's done it at North Carolina. And, the thing I talked about when Tennessee got him was what stood out to me was each year his batting average went up and his strikeouts went down with it. So he's a pretty disciplined guy. And, I mean, I know the ACC is not the SEC, but there's not that. The ACC is still pretty dang good in baseball. I mean, it really is. I mean, I know Tennessee won the ACC Invitational in the College World Series last year, but I don't know, man. It's that talking about it though gets me pretty excited about this lineup, knowing that there's so many options here as well. Because if a Chapman, a Bargo take that step like we hope they do, plus you've got guys like Osuna, Levi Clark, a Manny Marin, a Chris Newstrom, some of these dudes. I'm forgetting Stone Lawless. I mean, who knows who else could be? A Jackson Walker, could he play his way in the outfield if he gets some opportunity? A Backus. I mean, maybe the light comes on for Colby Backus as well. There's so many options on this team that it's just crazy what they're going to have. So, I mean, I don't know if they're top heavy like last year, but it's still going to be pretty dang good as well. There's still some high home run potential in this lineup. And the fact that Osuna and what his second at bat
Hit a
absolutely
homer. Yeah.
cranked one the other day. I mean, you couple that with, in your opinion, I'll shift back to pitching a little bit and then we'll get into wrapping this thing up. But, we've kind of talked what we think it's looking like this weekend. When it's all said and done to you, what's your ideal pitching staff looking like?
Ideal would be me personally, of course, Doyle on Friday nights. Then you have whoever you want on Saturday nights. That could be Coons, that could be Sneed. I like Coons. I want Coons as a Saturday night guy. Sunday, I like Loy. I like Dylan Loy as your Sunday guy. I think that's a great option. I think he pitched extremely well as a freshman last year. I understand you brought him in Game 3 of the College World Series, and he didn't necessarily pitch the greatest, but I still love the kid. I think he's great. He had great summer ball whenever he played up in the Appalachian League. So I like him as the Sunday guy. He's very calm, very collected. He's got great command. Strikeouts isn't necessarily that high, but I think you got to have a lefty to match some of the bats that you're going to see in SEC play. I like having more lefties in your starting rotation than righties personally at the college baseball level. So personally, I would do the Doyle on Friday nights, Coons on Saturday nights, Loy on Sundays, and then that way you have a stacked bullpen. You have Phillips in the bullpen, you have Snead in the bullpen, you have Ryan Combs, who's essentially apparently your closer, is a guy that nobody's ever heard of before until now. You have all the JUCO guys that you could ever imagine. You have the freshman guys, and it's stacked. I mean, if that's the case, your bullpen is definitely possibly better than last season. The guys, of course, have to prove it, but the bullpen could be set up to have a better potential than it did last season, because last year you didn't necessarily have as many guys as you wanted to. And you had some just role players when it comes out of the bullpen. But overall, pitching staff could be absolutely electric, especially if you set up kind of how I just mentioned, and you have the possibility of having the best bullpen in college baseball.
Would you say last year's staff was a great pitching staff?
No.
I mean, that was the concern early in the season. People
Yeah.
like, this is going to prevent us from winning a national championship. And then
I don't see how we won it with that staff, especially with the opener philosophy of Chris Stamos. And love the kid. He's a great guy, but he got lit up every single game he pitched in the postseason. And you continued to run him out there. You lost the first game of the College World Series against Texas A&M because of that. So you almost lost to Florida State in the opening game because of that. So it doesn't make sense to me why we continue to do that. The bullpen, in my opinion, it wasn't necessarily as good as you would have hoped it would have been. I mean, you were relying on Kirby Cannell to be this huge bullpen guy when necessarily he really wasn't. He, of course, came up and stepped up to the plate whenever you needed him to, but going into the season, it was like, he's Kirby. He's got a great mustache. Pitching, he's going to get you some outs. He's not going to be an electric guy. He did exactly opposite that, and he was an electric guy. But the bullpen last year, I was concerned about it. And I was concerned about it going into Omaha, especially when you're running out Andrew Binky and big situation in big games. And every time I saw the bullpen doors open last year and I saw Andrew Binky run onto the field, I was pissed.
He did a pretty good job, though, late.
He did, but I never did trust him. I didn't trust him ever since I saw him pitch in the midweek games at the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah. I think the key was, well, you remember Aaron Combs started off slow last year. Aaron Combs, the end of the year, was lights out.
Yeah.
And then, talk about Snead. I thought Snead was down a little bit. And Snead, to me, he scared me a lot at the end because I think his speed was down, and it was like
he just kept on throwing fastballs.
He doesn't have a lot of movement on his pitches. Oh. It's kind of like, here it is. And, he still did good, but he was a little scary. But to me, Xander Sechrist stepping up the way he did he was lights out. He pitched every vital situation at the end of the year. He pitched that game against South Carolina to win the conference. He pitched the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
He pitched the final game of the regional. Mm-hmm. He pitched game 3 of the super regional. Mm-hmm. He pitched let's see, he pitched the game
Was
3 in Omaha against Florida State,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it was Florida
That
State.
got him to the championship series.
Yep.
And then he pitched game 3 of the championship series. That's huge.
Mhm.
And the fact he won every single one of those starts is just hats off to him. That and Aaron Combs to me was the differences. And you mentioned Lloyd. Lloyd did some good. I know that game 3 against A&M, he didn't have a great outing, but overall he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Last year. Now I'll be honest, I would like to see him middle guy because Doyle throws high 90s.
Mhm.
Coons is going to be high 90. I'm still curious to see what they're going to do with AJ Russell. That's the wild card to me because I don't know if they would put him back starting or if they would use him more of a closer. You know, because I know Tony's not going to, especially if him being draft eligible this year, they're not just
He's not going to blow him.
They're not going to just overuse his arm by any means on it. But to me, Doyle, I've got questions about Liam Doyle. He had an over 6 ERA at Ole Miss last year.
Yeah.
And I know Ole Miss sucked, but an over 6 ERA is an over 6 ERA. That has nothing to do with your offense or anything.
No.
So, but, and everything we've heard though is that Doyle in the fall and here leading up has looked really good. So hopefully he's what we hope he is. And I do trust in Frank Anderson on it, but some of these, they have, we talked about the opener philosophy. I don't need to see the opener philosophy ever again. Ever. I mean, unless you're
just
bringing
the midweeks. Just the midweeks. They can do it in the midweeks because that's what they do, and that's what they've done. They can do it in the midweeks. That's the only acceptable time.
Yep, but a guy like Doyle throwing high 90s, Coons high 90s. If Phillips' control is there and he's got stamina, let's go. I've still got questions on that though. Can he do it consistently, or is it can Snead do it? I'm still interested to see what he does, but Russell, I don't put it. If Russell can start, I mean that's a no-brainer later on. Your perfect scenario to me, your best, most talented guys, in no particular order here: Doyle, Snead, Doyle, Russell, Coons, and again, no particular order on that. Just mentioning the names. Nobody's beating that.
No.
You get into the regionals, the super, especially you get to the regionals and the super regionals where you need 4 or 5 guys. Oh, come on. Come on, man. There's nobody matching up with that.
No.
Nobody, especially if you got to a 4 where, let's say it was, again, no particular order, Russell, Doyle, Coons. You got to go to a 4th game and you can bring Snead out. You could bring Loy out. I like Loy more in the middle because all these other guys, Snead, Phillips, Coons, Doyle, all throwing close to 100. You bring Loy in, Loy's around 90.
Mm-hmm.
Change of pace, especially if you throw Coons or you throw Phillips or you throw Snead. Maybe switch it up and bring in a lefty who's throwing 10 miles per hour less. And then you get your innings out of Loy. Then you bring in Tanner Franklin throwing high 90s, or you bring in, I don't know how hard Combs throws. I don't know that I've seen that.
Maybe just like his brother.
Yeah, Aaron Combs was what? Low to mid 90s?
He was like 93.
That's what I was thinking.
He had the sidearm slot, and he was wicked movement.
I mean, I think we're both shocked by the fact that Ryan Combs looks to be the closer. I didn't see this coming on it. But, we'll see. Evidently, he's got the mentality for it if he's staring dudes down and stuff. So,
me.
But that's pretty interesting to see. But I think, you throw these guys, especially these guys can throw strikes, which I think with Doyle, seems like he's throwing strikes pretty good so far. Coons is a strike throwing machine. He's not going to walk many. And then you get into if Phillips controls there, I mean, the fact that he went 4 innings and didn't walk anybody,
That's promising.
that's promising. Now the question's going to be, can he do it in the games? And we'll see. Ryan Davis, what's up, man? Appreciate your generosity here. I honestly don't care if we don't repeat. I mean, I would love it, but I just want to at least make it back to Omaha and like the last 3 national champs who did not make it. That's a good one. Good stuff. Thank you so much, man, for $10. We greatly appreciate that. I've had people asking, why is Tennessee not ranked number 1 coming in? Do you have a problem with it?
I could care less about preseason rankings.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, it means nothing unless Tennessee had every guy returning last year from last year's team, pretty much. Then I would be pissed off. But I don't care that we're not ranked number 1, especially considering the talent that's on like Texas A&M's team. Because of course that's a coaching staff that has to prove it, but the talent's there on their team. You have the other teams that you could talk about, the historical powers, but I don't care. We could be ranked 10th for all I care. I know that Tony Vitello is going to get the job done, and if we're not sitting in Omaha again, I'll be unhappy.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. Ryan said the last 3 national champs did not make it back, so that would be it's tough to repeat. It's tough to repeat. I mean, if anybody's setting himself up for they're like, well, I'll tell you what, this is a bad season if we don't repeat, then you might be, it's just this team is highly capable of it for sure. But yeah, A&M's got a lot of good players back. I mean, you've got
a lot of good players.
Grahovich, I think, has his name back. You've got Caden Kent back. Prager, who was their ace, is back. Thank goodness Cortez is gone, that we don't have to face him again. You remember him on the game 2?
Uh-huh.
I don't even think we already put the bat on the ball against him. Thank goodness he wore down.
Jace Laviette, I'm pretty sure he's still.
Yeah. That's it. Yep.
They got the closer, the guy that we weren't supposed to touch, and then he low-key dominated us in the first game, and then the last game we ate him alive.
Hit him pretty hard the last game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he may be back.
He's a bigger guy.
I can't remember his name. I know he's a lefty.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good pitcher. He's a heck of a pitcher.
He had like a 0.5 ERA last year.
Yeah, I know Dreiling took him yard.
Yeah. In
game 3.
Yeah,
and I'm
lit him up
pretty sure Tears, the one with the Inslee slide, was off of him too.
Let me see.
If I'm not mistaken, Tennessee got to him in that game 3. But I can't remember what his name is.
Well, would you look at that? Texas A&M actually has their 2025 baseball roster up on the website. How convenient.
Probably every team in the country does.
Except us.
Except for Tennessee. Everything's all secretive.
They still have Caden Kent. He's still on the team.
Yeah, I just mentioned him, actually.
Hayden Schott.
Yeah, so that means
that guy's back.
That means you'll get to see Jeff Kent every time that Caden Kent breathes this year. Anytime he blinks or moves or anything. 2025 baseball roster.
Yep. They still got the Brad Rudis guys back. Justin Lampkin's back. Josh Stewart's back. Those were all 3 guys that they talked about bullpen-wise last year. If you ever heard any of us talk about it, those were their 3 main bullpen guys. Doesn't look like that guy's back. I do not see him on the roster for this year.
Let's see, I was looking now. There's Prager. Prager is kind of interesting because the Angels drafted him 3rd round, and that's pretty unheard of for him to come back. But
yeah,
he must have gotten some pretty nice NIL money. That dude is not back. I got to go to the 24 roster.
Evan Oschenbeck. That was his name.
That's it. That is it. Montgomery's gone. Of course, we didn't face Montgomery. He was out, hurt, which that sucked.
Yeah, that did suck.
Let's see here. Where's he at here? I got to see. Wait, what?
You looking for Oschenbeck?
Yeah.
He's 53, so all the way down at the bottom.
Okay. Sonny Cortez. Or Chris Cortez, not Sonny. Chris Cortez was, I was glad to see him go pro for sure. Oh, here we go. Mine wasn't loaded. Oh, Evan Ostenbach. That's him.
Evan
Yep.
Ostenbach.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher, man, but Tennessee got to him in game 3. I mean, they can say what they want to on that one. They got to him pretty well in game 3. But ideally, I don't think anything with this pitching staff will be set in stone till we get conference play. It's going to be fluid. I think you'll see, what you're out of the JUCO guys. To me, I think the main guys to watch out for, of course, Ryan Combs is one that still kind of really surprises me. Curious to see what they do with Wiggins because he was like a JUCO closer coming in. Tanner Franklin, I think, is going to be a big part of it as well. Who am I forgetting? Oh, there's no doubt on this, Tim. It's reload.
Yeah, there's.
It's at this point every year's reload with where this program's at.
Yeah, and I would say just mainly because if you wanted to call it a rebuild, there would be a lot of positions across the roster on the pitching and fielding side of it's kind of you're just going to get what you get there. And that's just not the case. There's guys in every spot on the field that are good enough. And if there's not a weak spot on the team, in my opinion, in any spot. And if you could consider a weak spot if it's just one guy. And if you lose that guy, you're screwed. That's not the case, especially when it comes to the fielding aspect. We're too deep everywhere from catcher to center field. It's too deep everywhere. And same thing goes with the pitching staff. You got 7 guys you could probably line up and they could all start games for you. So Tennessee, I mean, it's reload in every position, in my opinion. First guy gets hurt, second guy's up, and you're probably not going to see much of a difference.
And what's scary about it is I think next year they're going to be insane. But this freshman class will be sophomores. They'll add guys through the portal. They've got another big-time freshman class coming in, depending on how many of those guys make it to campus, because you've got, a couple top 10 guys. I'd be shocked if they make it. But, who knows with these collectives and stuff, how does that change the game? Can a guy get more NIL now, come play bait, then he can a signing bonus? That'd be pretty interesting. But, it's going to be fluid with the pitching staff. It's going to be fluid with the lineup as well. What we see Friday night's not necessarily what you're going to see later on. I think a lot of your freshmen in JUCO go midweek. Maybe some like a guy like a Luke Payne who's looked everything I've seen for him. He's a returning guy's looked really good here in preseason. He had a good weekend this week. Just a lot of them, man. Just a lot. Out of your returning guys, like Tennessee's a fit 25 roster is still not official that's on there. So it's the unofficial roster. It's basically your returners and transfers right now is what it is. So, and some of these guys too, if you compare this roster to last year, like AJ Russell's now showing up to 223. When I saw him in October at Smoky Stand, this is a big dude, man.
He is.
This is a big dude.
Being.
Yeah. I mean, Marcus Phillips listed 6'4", 246. That's a big dude. Your boy Backus, 6'4", 230. That's a pretty good size dude as well. Stone Lawless, I got to see, talk about 6'2", 219. So, and he must have like arms of steel or something. Here it go on.
I don't think the weight that they had him listed as last year is accurate because he was the biggest guy on the team whenever it comes to outer wise. Like he was pretty stinking large, and it was significant. It was a significant difference. He made like Cannon Peebles and Cal Stark look like 2 little kindergartners. It was honestly pretty funny.
I've heard Tanner Franklin is a big guy too. He's listed at 6'5", 225.
Yeah.
I've heard he is a massive dude as well. They're showing Curly 6'3", 218, so he's put on a lot of weight as well. I'll tell you one I noticed in some of the pictures was we talked about Jackson Walker. I mean, his dude looks like he's got arms that big around. He looks huge in some of the pictures I've seen.
Did you see
of him.
the Oklahoma State picture?
Yeah, I did.
That dude, I mean, I can't think of his name now. He back when the Reds had the cut off jerseys and they had God, I can't remember the guy's name
The
for the life
Reds.
of me. Yeah, I played for the Reds. He had that one season and he hit a home run. It was on Pittsburgh. Him and Pittsburgh went after it that year, and he got in like a fight with him and everything. And he had arms just like that. I can't think of his name to save the life of me now. Let's see if I can find it.
I can't remember. Was it last couple years or?
Yeah, it was just a few seasons ago.
I can't remember who it was. Ryan Davis for 5 again. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Ole Miss hadn't made the tournament since they won it. Same Mississippi State and then LSU. Yeah, I mean, LSU last year was not, the LSU gets the benefit of the doubt every year. I mean, they were loaded when they had Paul Skeens. All right, did you find it?
Yeah, Derek Dietrich. That's who it.
Derek Dietrich.
Yeah.
Didn't he play for the Marlins at some point?
He did. He played for the Marlins. He had the huge arms just like that Oklahoma State player did. But the Oklahoma State picture, that looks fake to me because the bat is curved. And you will not convince me that the bat isn't curved because it looks like they've blown up his arms. But they may not have. He may just be absolutely massive and have tree trunks as biceps. But I don't know. To be determined.
Could be those massive arms are bending the bat in half,
Could be. The swing speed's just that fast. It's like a golf shaft just bending.
Are you surprised that they've not gone to wooden bats in college baseball?
No.
Really?
I think they want to keep it different. So I don't think they'll change it.
I just kind of wondered with the technology and stuff. I mean, it's proof when what Tennessee Tech dude took Ben Joyce Yard down to Smoky Stadium with a wooden bat.
I think one of the things is about that though is with the wooden bats for the smaller schools, it's going to be hard for them because they're going to have to put a lot more money into those kind of bats because you're going to have to replace them so often, and you don't really have to do that with the metal bats. So I think that's one of the reasons why is because the athletic programs that are losing money already in baseball, you don't want to add on an extra few thousand because of wooden bats.
Yeah.
And then shipping them out everywhere, that would be ridiculous.
I just wonder if the technology gets too much at some point where they change it or not. I mean, I like the aspect of it, but I mean, with these dudes, I mean, you see a guy like that dude from Oklahoma State's got muscles coming out of his eyeballs and his eyelids, basically. Everything. He's got hair with muscles on it. You get guys like that with this technology getting better and better. At what point? I mean, you don't hear of really 500-foot bombs either.
No.
With it. I mean, if you start hearing 500-600-foot bombs, that might be one thing. But
Blake Burke almost did it in southern Mississippi.
Gosh, that happened that day. I think I've told you this. I was living in Columbia. It happened. He hit that bomb that still hadn't landed. Or no, I know where it landed at. Chase Burns come in for the 9th inning, and all of a sudden we heard a major commotion. A freaking tree out back. Monster limb fell on the house. Or it fell on the gutter. Fortunately, it didn't fall on the roof. Fell and took the power line out.
Oh my
I texted on buddy's mine. I told him what happened, and buddy of mine said, "Well, we know where Blake Burke's home run landed at." And it was like at that point, it actually brought a little bit of a laugh out because it's like, what world is going on here? Massive tree in the backyard and stuff. But yeah, in between that one and was there ever an estimate or on the Drew Gilbert bomb against Wright State?
No, I haven't saw a direct estimate. That's one of those where it looked like a moonshot, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me if it didn't go as far as you think it did, just because of the moment. I mean, whenever it was a no doubter, he faked it off. It could have barely went over the fence by 10 feet in reality. But I mean, we know, of course, it went really far, but the way he pulled it off, you would have thought it could have went over by 10 feet and it wouldn't have made a difference. But it could have been 450 feet. I don't know if it's necessarily, gosh, it's hard. It could be 395-foot homer for all we know, but it could also be 495-foot homer. So to me, the way it kind of launched off, it was far, but I don't think it was a mammoth record-breaking home run distance-wise.
He crushed it. I know that. I think some of these times when you look up and I see something going across the sky, I'm pretty sure that's Drew Gilbert's bomb still going right there. But I mean, I've watched that replay. I couldn't tell you how many times, and it looked like he absolutely killed it. Let's see.
I was in the middle of the road.
Herb said I was there. It was almost over the lights in right field. So funny enough, I've been to plenty of Tennessee baseball games. I've never been to one Lindsey Nelson Stadium. We'll mark that off the list this weekend. So that doesn't stand out. I don't really know how that is. I mean, if you told me South Carolina or even ETSU Stadium, I could tell you. But so it seems like that would, even though it's a short porch, going over the lights is still
that's crazy.
A pretty big shot.
I watched that one in the middle of the road in Bristol, Tennessee. Me and my friends, we went out and played some putt-putt. Truck wouldn't start, so we had to walk over to Sonic to get picked up, and we were walking to the road, and there I am in the middle of the road in Bristol, Tennessee, and Drew Gilbert hits an absolute moonshot, and I start losing my mind in the middle of the road. So, pretty cool memory.
Yeah, we were living in Aiken at the time, and I'm like, just kind of, coming into that inning, then you start getting a little bit of hope, and then it's like that first swing he had against that dude. It's like, oh, if that guy will just hang on. And, well, he did on the next one.
Yeah.
And I started yelling. I think my wife had one of the cats on her lap and about got clawed. She's like, you about got me clawed here. But I about lost my voice on it because I was doing another channel at the time. And I did the post-game video on that. And I remember being very struggling with voice on that one. But that one was pretty amazing. That moment was as well. But what we'll kind of wrap up here. What do you constitutes a successful season this year?
The easy answer, of course, is just make it to Omaha. A successful season for me, to be like totally not in the dumps about it, is make the super regionals. That's what that would be the very bottom of the success factor of you make the super regionals. To me, in my opinion, that's good enough of a successful season, in my opinion, because we just won a national championship. I'm not going to be expecting make it to Omaha, make a run at Omaha. I, of course, want the bar to be set at making Omaha, but I would be okay if I would be able to swallow the pill of just making it to the super regionals.
I think it depends on who we played. Yeah. I mean, fucking Evansville come up us out. I might be a little, even though Evansville's a pretty good baseball team, but still,
I think that's the thing about that series. I was really scared going into that series because I knew if we did lose to Evansville, that would have been like the most embarrassing thing in Tennessee athletics history almost, because that would have been just every imaginable nightmare scenario, because this little small school that beat Kentucky in basketball, like when John Calipari was there a few years ago, and that's the only time you've ever heard of their program. They walk into Knoxville and they win against the #1 overall team in baseball. I would have been so pissed. I think I was more scared for that super regional than some other ones, just because of the factor of if you lost, you were done. Like It was embarrassing. Like they would have been calling for Tony's head if you would have lost to Evansville.
Yeah, especially after 2022, the Notre Dame series on it. And I always remember Evansville from basketball back in the day. They used to were like the only team back years ago, and some of you guys in the chat may remember this. They wore actual sleeves. It wasn't the sleeves under the jersey. Their jerseys had sleeves on them. They were like the only one I can remember, and I always thought it was funny because they would make the tournament. So, but man, I almost think Omaha is the bar. I really do. I think we're at that point now. I kind of agree with this, that I really kind of think if you don't make the Omaha, and I know it's hard to do. I wouldn't necessarily say it's not a successful season. I think you could. I think a couple things could be true. I think you could get to the super regionals, get put out and have a good season, or you go to Omaha, and have, no matter what happens, you get to Omaha. That's pretty successful. But I mean, at this point now, I don't think anybody's content just getting Omaha, going to and barbecue out there. But I mean, there's different ways. I mean, it's college baseball. It's going to be low. I mean, we know how good the SEC is. I mean, and last year you had a team like Kentucky who was not even predicted to be that good comes up, and I mean, it come right down to the end. I mean, they were one of the last 4 teams standing last year, and
they choked it away.
Yeah, they did. You're right on that because it easily could have been them. Because I remember last year I was kind of nervous because like the worst case scenario that could happen here is we play Kentucky for the championship and then they beat us. And but it didn't happen. Team come through on it, and it was an iffy College World Series for sure.
It was.
But yeah, I think you get to Omaha. Regardless, that's a good year. I mean, super regionals, it's still a good year.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've seen people after 2022 say, well, this year was a failure. No, it wasn't.
No.
That season was by no means a failure. Yeah, they were so good, and that happened. That left a big damper on it. But no, I don't think baseball's in the positive revenue-wise yet. I think they're still in the negative. Could be wrong on that. I was thinking I saw something where they were still a little bit in the negative on that. But any final thoughts before we wrap this up? Well, I will say this, and you guys, if you're listening, I've plugged this, our 6-part series we did on it. We broke down pitchers, catchers, infielders, outfielders. We broke it up because you broke up infielders in the corner and middle. Did the outfielders and then I broke pitchers up kind of into weekend guys versus what I think, some you could see weekend or weekday along the way. I mean, just kind of wrap up. I mean, I'm curious to see the newcomers. I really think pitching wise, you're only freshmen. I think you'll see some guys midweek, but I'm still looking at Coons. I think Braden Krenzel has some. I'm curious to see what he does this year. I think he's got a lot of potential as well. Pretty highly rated dude also. Yeah, it should be a fun year again. And it gets started in 4 days. But any final thoughts as we wrap this thing up?
It's going to be a great baseball season. But first off, you got to beat Kentucky in basketball tomorrow night.
That's right. And we'll be here. Or I know I will. We'll talk about it here after a while as well. Definitely be here tomorrow night. But that's a big one. Tennessee. How did Tennessee drop in the polls today? Not that it matters, but still, you win 2 games, a couple teams in front of you lose, and you drop.
I don't know. It's a mixture of recency bias and historical bias of Duke. It doesn't matter. Tennessee could play Duke 3 times in a season and beat them all 3 times, and they'd still probably sneak Duke in front of you. Florida, I get that they rank Florida in front of us just because the AP poll people aren't smart enough to actually look at the season of matchups. Tennessee just beat Florida not a few weeks ago, like pretty much a week ago, and dominated them. But since they just beat Auburn, just because they beat Auburn 2 days ago is why they jumped Tennessee. But I don't understand Auburn still being at 1. I think Alabama should have jumped to 1 in my opinion because Arkansas was hot and they completely demolished Arkansas on a Saturday night in Bud Walton Arena, which was even more impressive than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm with you on Duke. Duke was against an unranked team, and they're still up there. That's ridiculous. Duke should have dropped on it.
Clemson get ranked?
No, I don't think so. Clemson just beat North Carolina, though. So, I mean, that's North Carolina, though, is probably not going to make the tournament and probably going to be hunting a head coach.
Clemson's ranked 23rd.
Oh, they did get ranked?
Yeah, they should. Okay. They're 20-5 on the season, so they should. They
definitely should be. So.
I didn't understand why they weren't ranked going into that.
Yeah, but they're definitely ranked now as we go forward. So yeah, that's pretty big. You beat Duke and North Carolina back to back.
Yeah,
like that. I mean, even though North Carolina's down, but still yet. So, all right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. Appreciate you guys tuning in with us tonight. Had a really good show. We'll kind of play it by ear on what we're going to do coverage-wise. A lot of it's going to depend on, I don't know when I'm going to Knoxville this weekend. So, and then the weather's looking a little bit iffy at times this weekend. So we'll see if they make any kind of modifications to the weekend or what they do. But we'll definitely do some wrap up, and we'll talk about some options moving forward if we won't go back Monday night or how we want to go here. But you guys have a great rest of your evening. Really appreciate you tonight. Make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe on your way out. He's Kerry. This is Frank. This is the House of Orange. Last but not least, go Vols.